What is up, my fellow andronauts? Can methylene blue increase your testosterone, modulate your estrogen and DHT? I know a lot of you guys are using methylene blue or interested in methylene blue, but you might be wondering if it's safe for your hormones and maybe it increases serotonin, it's bad for your libido, all of those kind of stuff. So let's address that in this video. Before I dive in, if you haven't already, be sure to get my ebook on how to maximize your testosterone naturally. If you'd like me to help you maximize your testosterone, coaching links are in the description below. Let's dive in. Alright, so 3 ways that methylene blue can increase testosterone. Number 1 is inhibiting oxidative stress. Number 2 is reducing excess nitric oxide synthesis. Number 3 is by increasing ATP levels. Now let me dive into detail with all 3 of these. Right, so first of all, oxidative stress harms the Leydig cells. There's a lot of lipids and proteins in DNA in the Leydig cells where testosterone is being produced. So if that's being damaged, you will get a drop in testosterone production. So excess oxidative stress is not a good thing. So here is, for example, the electron transport chain, complex 1, 2, 3, cytochrome C, oxidase, number 4, number 5. You can see that electrons are being released from here that reacts with oxygen, create reactive oxygen species. This is a natural process that actually happens. Like the mitochondrial electron transport chain, it does produce reactive oxygen species, which is normal because it acts as signaling molecules. But when these complexes become dysfunctional, you produce too much reactive oxygen species, and that starts to cause oxidative stress in the body and lower testosterone. Basically what happens is that this electron binds with methylene blue and then it rather donates it to cytochrome C oxidase. So it prevents the increase in reactive oxygen species and oxidative stress, protecting against oxidative stress. Methylene blue does have strong anti-inflammatory effects in the body and can therefore help to prevent a decrease in testosterone in a harmful environment. Number 2 is it lowers excessive amounts of nitric oxide production. So here you can see nitric oxide synthase, which produces nitric oxide. Nitric oxide inhibits various enzymes that produce testosterone. So here you have STAR that transports cholesterol into the mitochondria to be converted into pregnenolone. So it inhibits this P450-SCC, which is the enzyme that converts pregnenolone into cholesterol. And then it also inhibits 3-beta-HSD, which is another steroid that converts pregnenolone upstream. So nitric oxide has various inhibitory effects, and by inhibiting nitric oxide synthase, methylene blue can inhibit excess nitric oxide levels that can help to increase your testosterone. Basically, prevent the inhibition of steroidogenesis by an excess amount of nitric oxide. Now keep in mind that excess nitric oxide synthesis only really becomes upregulated when someone is in an unhealthy state, primarily by the enzyme inducible nitric oxide synthase. So for example, if you have gut issues, you have a heavy metal or whatever, it's going to upregulate inducible nitric oxide synthesis that's then going to cause havoc. So methylene blue really helps to protect us in that unhealthy state. Number 3 is that it optimizes mitochondrial function. So as you can remember from the first one that I mentioned, it helps with the electron transport chain. So it transports those electrons when some of the complexes is dysfunctional. So it can rescue dysfunctional energy production. And so the first step of steroidogenesis is in the mitochondria. Cholesterol is being transported into the mitochondria where it's converted into pregnenolone. Once it's converted into pregnenolone, it's transported out into the endoplasmic reticulum where it's then further converted into testosterone. So if the mitochondria is not working, you're not producing enough energy, you have too much reactive oxygen species, you will not be able to convert that cholesterol effectively enough into pregnenolone. You have to optimize your mitochondrial health for optimal steroidogenesis. And methylene blue can actually help with that if your mitochondria is compromised. Other benefits of methylene blue is that it inhibits aromatase, primarily by increasing hydrogen peroxide. Methylene blue has been shown to be extremely good at increasing hydrogen peroxide levels. And you can see like the more hydrogen peroxide they used in this study, the more significantly in downregulated aromatase activity. So when someone is actually in a compromised state, they don't actually produce enough reactive hydrogen peroxide. They might produce an excess amount of superoxide, but not as much hydrogen peroxide. And then that superoxide is going to other harmful free radicals instead of hydrogen peroxide. So methylene blue can help to normalize that ratio and restore proper hydrogen peroxide levels. All right, in terms of DHT, hydrogen peroxide also actually helps to increase DHT and stimulates 5-alpha reductase. So this is the main benefit when you exercise intensely that produces a lot of reactive oxygen species, namely hydrogen peroxide. This is when you get the greatest spike in DHT from this intense exercise, right? Now, methylene blue can at baseline without exercise enhance hydrogen peroxide production. That can then help to lead to higher levels of DHT. So I'm having a very interesting experience is that when I'm using methylene blue lately, I'm getting ferocious morning wood. So which is interesting because it inhibits nitric oxide synthesis, but despite that, I'm having amazing blood flow. So it might be because of the modulation going to more DHT instead of estrogen, although my ratios are already optimized. So it is having interesting effects for me at the moment. Other reasons why I'm using methylene blue is to focus, for cognition, nootropic benefits, and also to enhance my exercise performance. And I've noticed that when used at the right dose, it does significantly enhance my ability to push harder and longer, especially when I'm doing like aerobic and high intensity aerobic style training. Now, there are many other benefits to methylene blue as well, but there are also potential side effects to using methylene blue, and Chris Masterjohn did an excellent job, and he had a 51-page guide on methylene blue. I will put the link in the description if you want to check that out. His main concern is that it produces reactive oxygen species, and also that it causes some disconnectivity in various areas of the brain, which might not be a good thing, although that has not been investigated. But this was specifically when they injected methylene blue into the brain. This was not via oral consumption, and let that naturally then go to the brain. So clearly there is still a lot of research that needs to be done on methylene blue, but so far I'm using it. I've never experienced any downsides to it, only benefits. Alright guys, I would like to hear from you if you've ever used methylene blue. What's been your experience? When I use it, I use roughly 50. I've been experimenting with really higher doses recently, like 50 to 100 milligrams of methylene blue. I don't necessarily feel optimal when I use like 100 milligrams, so I rather stick to the 50 milligrams. But anyway, what's been your experience with methylene blue? I would love to hear from you guys. Alright guys, I hope you learned something new, and I will check you in the next one. Cheers guys.